We're pleased to be joined right now by Mark Will Weber, journalist and author of the new book, Mint Juleps with Teddy Roosevelt, The Complete History of Presidential Drinking. Mark, thanks very much for your time. Welcome to America's Forum.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, the history of presidential drinking. How has alcohol imbibed by chief executives perhaps changed the course of our history?
It's always close to the source of what's going on, and it certainly has affected, for instance, elections and the rhetoric of elections. So the most obvious one would be the log cabin hard cider campaign, where Harrison embraced the hard cider moniker that his opponents tried to make him look bad with, and he flipped it on him and rode to the White House on that. And another time was when Grover Cleveland was in a very close election with Blaine, and they came out and said, well, we don't want the party of rum, Romanism, and rebellion. And that really New York, and then helped by that winning New York, he won the election just by a few votes. It was sort of a slur against the Irish Catholics, and all the Irish Catholics in New York came out and voted for Cleveland, and he won by a couple thousand votes. It wasn't much.
Mark, I want to ask you, your book reveals a lot about presidents and their drinking habits that many actually may not know. So we want to go through a few of these sort of interesting factoids. I want to ask, which future president would you say was inebriated during an inauguration?
Well, that's definitely Andrew Johnson. Showed up for his vice presidential inauguration acceptance. And in Johnson's defense, he was traveled to Washington, and Lincoln sort of insisted that he did. This was 1865. So Johnson showed up, and as most people did in those days, they would turn to alcohol for medicinal purposes, at least as an excuse, if nothing else. And he obviously hated the night before, and then the next morning he did not feel that great, probably was still intoxicated, and he unfortunately opted for the hair of the dog strategy, and a 5-minute talk was supposed to be rambled into 18 minutes, and he was slurring his words, staggering around on the stage, and eventually they gave him the equivalent of the Broadway hook.
Oh, mercy, that's tough. Listen, we've got a little less than 2 minutes remaining, but I'm curious about Prohibition. Did the White House turn into a great big speakeasy when Prohibition was in session? What happened to the White House during those years? Well,
it depended. Coolidge was in there. They pretty much towed the line. Coolidge was not a big drinker. Not the most exciting guy in the world. When he died, the writer Dorothy Parker said, how did they know? Now when Harding came in, and that was actually the germ for this book. Harding used to ski in his golf bag where he walked around the course at Chevy Chase, and every couple holes he'd have a pop. And maybe that explained why he never broke 100, or rarely. In the White House itself, the second floor, he turned into basically a poker den with any whiskey that you wanted. And his wife, the First Lady, Florence Harding, would scurry about and bring drinks to the players. And they would even playfully chide her if she didn't do it quickly enough. They'd say, "Come on, Duchess, you're laying down on the job. Get my drink over here."
Oh,
and
mercy.
One has a hard time envisioning, say, Jackie Kennedy or Michelle Obama doing that kind of thing.
I would agree with you on that. Unfortunately, Mark, our time grows short. Mark Will Weber, we thank you for the time. The name of the book, Mint Juleps with Teddy Roosevelt, The Complete History of Presidential Drinking. You'll want to check that out. And there's the cover of the book right there. Although Ben Franklin said, don't judge a book by its cover, but we heard from Mark Will Weber, and we appreciate his time. Your time, too. Back tomorrow. Stay brave, stay free, stay tuned, and thanks for watching.